Yes, it is okay to be bad. And this is a mantra that I speak and share with my clients and students all the time as a way of helping them accept all of themselves, all of their archetypes in the chart, all of the traits that they have shamed and they have rejected because they're bad or considered to be bad. It's essential to your health, to our health, that we do not shame and that we accept all of what we are and who we are. And we all are bad. We all have bad in us as well as good. So we have to find it in us, the strength and the courage to look at all those other less savory parts of ourselves and find way to accept them and love them. Because that's the only route to the world peace. I know I jumped a huge leap there, but bear with me on this channel, because I won't be touching on this today necessarily. But that's my whole kind of underlining motto, life's belief and philosophy. But today, and in all of these videos, I'm always bringing in astrology as a way of helping us understand why certain things are the way they are. And it's such a self-compassion practice, and also therefore compassion practice towards everyone else. So today I want to use two signs which are on the axis, like Virgo and Pisces, and I selected three qualities of each, of both, that are conventionally traditionally perceived and qualified and labeled as bad. Like those are the shadow aspects of the signs. They're criticized, and I'll again speak from personal experience, but also like from clients and students, and like they're aware of those traits in themselves, and they don't like those traits because the world doesn't like them, it doesn't give them what they want, and for all the reasons that I'll touch on in this video. But ultimately I want, and I'm probably making a series of this, let me know if you like it, and I want to make it for every single axis, because the first step to change, to improvement, and I use this because I've done, it sounds like it's actually not a word that I like to use, even though I probably use it because it's kind of like, an easy one to pick quickly. But it says that like something's wrong with you now. That's what's wrong. To look at and anything in the way of judging it as a bad thing, like shaming it. Something might not be making you happy, but it's your reality. Right? It's your reality, and you have to make peace with it in some way or another. Otherwise, you are building whatever you are, like, so you're not happy with something and you don't want to look at it and you just ignore it and you want to build the happiness on top of that. It will corrode it. Trust me, it will corrode it. It will essentially eventually be your undoing. Not you personally, but I mean, whatever the thing is, and therefore, well, obviously yours, but not like all of you necessarily, right? That's why it's so essential to make peace with what is. And if you have it in you, we all have it in us, but some of us may be more easily than others accessible, right? Is to love it. And in that, it's like the love, and I have a video coming about what love is, but that will be in a few weeks. It's like dissolves. It dissolves. That love dissolves, and that's your change. Even if it's not necessarily directly a change, it kind of cleans the ground. It purifies the ground. And this is actually the language of Virgo Pisces, as you'll hear, for that new thing to come on and be actually good, like so that it doesn't have corrosion underneath it, right? That's why it's essential that we start saying it's okay to be bad, and it's okay to be all the things that you don't like about yourself, and to start to look at them and use astrology to understand why. It's of course it is. Of course you would be like that, because just look at this. Look at what's going on when you look at your chart. And then all of a sudden it's like you have only compassion left for yourself, right? It's like, oh, well, of course, no wonder I'm like that. Of course I'm struggling. Of course this is my way of coping with it, because the struggle is real. And so it's not ideal. It's like, it's icky and sticky, but it's part of being human. We're all icky and sticky. We are just body that's far from perfect. I mean, it's perfect in its mechanism because, look at this thing, we are alive, I don't know, whatever, right? It's amazing, but in a kind of more mundane sense, not scientific. it's just full of gunk and stickiness and ickiness, right? And yet it's our body, it's our reality. Okay, right, enough of that. Hopefully I made my case that this is just the only way to be. Like, without that part of, without that piece, the rest doesn't hold, doesn't stand, doesn't stay. Okay, I'll stop. As you can see, I'm so passionate about this whole topic, which is why my channel used to be called Darker Materials, but I'm not. This is the next level. This is the next iteration, Astrology Chrome. Anyway, so Pisces and Virgo. So I'm going to be talking about perfectionism, criticism, and masochism, which are three qualities, character traits, let's say, that Virgo is let's say, shamed for. And for Pisces, we have escapism, deception, and victim mentality. So those are the three qualities that Pisces is shamed for. And I say shamed, I mean, I have also spoken of these things as something that, you know, we want to get out of because it's not serving us. So in that, I mean, I wasn't intending to shame, but I can imagine how that is formal criticism. And I am Pluto in Virgo. It's like whatever comes out of my mouth. And I have another channel in human design, which is also about criticism. So I know it comes out that way. And I probably am not refined and evolved enough to make it less criticism-like. So I don't want to apologize. Not because I don't care, but it's like, just sounds too like politicians. I don't know, just the whole thing about apologizing to me sounds a bit, I don't like it. Anyway, that's a separate video. Okay, so if a Virgo, not a person, but when a client comes to me with a Virgo placement and I can hear the perfectionism there, or I can hear the criticism or masochism, and I'll speak to each of them separately, I will approach them every time with this thing of like, it's okay. Of course you are like that. Of course you are a perfectionist. Of course you are a masochist. Of course you are critical, and you come across you criticize, right? Because of that Virgo placement. So they're coming to me with that theme of that storyline around whatever they have in Virgo, right? And those themes are coming up. So I always start with, it's okay to be bad in that way. So why is it okay to be bad? Why is it okay to be perfectionist for Virgo? And for Virgo, meaning a Virgo placement, not a Virgo person, sun, right? Because Virgo is opposite Pisces, and I spoke somewhere else about how even though there is a progression of signs, we're going from Virgo to Libra to, Scorpio to blah, blah. And that is a evolutionary progression of our self, our conscious self, like that's the path. But what drives this path is actually the opposition of each of these steps. That's the engine of what gets us working at each of these levels, each of these steps of signs that I just said in that sequence. But it's the opposition that drives that, and it's the fuel. So in Virgo level, we have Pisces opposition that it's actually working the Virgo step, right? So Virgo is the self that is actually for the first time self-aware. It's like for the first time, it's like by self-aware, that wasn't precise enough. So it's a self-awareness that it's critical self-awareness. It has that discernment. It's looking like what's useful, what's not useful. It's actually curious. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. He's curious about the mechanics of being human. And I don't mean just physical, but that too, because Virgo is health as well. But it's about what makes me tick? What makes me do this? And then you see how it's clunky or clumsy, or it's like full of, and you just want to clean it up, like you're like a jeweler, or not a watchmaker. Is it watchmaker? Watch repair type of person. You'd have to, all these little nitty gritty. And that's Virgo. It's very detailed. You can see, and he has the dexterity of someone who needs to work, of a surgeon, like precision, right? But it's like with such detail of like little watches, right? And dismantle that. And so it's fascinated by that. That's Mercury, curiosity, like I say. And so in that sense, self-awareness, it's an extreme, maybe self-awareness is a better way. Every sign, every step of the way, we are self-aware, but it's a flavor of what interests us, what we are curious about. And in Virgo, we are most curious about also our psychology, because most than any of the sign, that's the first time we are concerned about our psychology, because we understand at that point for the first time that actually it's not just there is something behind all this, what we see and touch, that moves us, that does stuff to us, that it's actually connected to what we do. So it's like the manifestation, even though that's ultimately Saturn archetype. But Saturn, Virgo, Saturn, Capricorn, Virgo, Mercury in Taurus, Venus, those three, the triad of the earth, are ultimately manifestation, the triptych of the manifestation principle or something. But so Virgo part in that is the connection with the mind. So it's like you realize that the mind is the one that determines what reality you have, and what your thoughts do to your body and to your reality and to day to day. So that's the awareness that we get in Virgo. And it becomes aware of all that's wrong because it can see so in such detail. It has microscope for eyes. But the Pisces piece, because the Pisces is the final, the end, it's the God, divinity, perfection. Pisces is perfection. But what Virgo doesn't know at this stage, at Virgo stage, is that perfection is what is. It's like the Pisces perfection is that the idea of perfection in Pisces is that Pisces sees everything as perfect, right? That's why Pisces is love, which is another video that's coming in the future. What love is, my answer to that question, astrologically speaking. But what Virgo doesn't have that bigger view, doesn't see it so removed from, it's not removed enough to see that everything the way it is, it's perfect. But it knows that perfection lives in that its opposition. It's like, that's the energy pool. The opposition is the most tension in a chart. It's the most tension in a chart, and so that's why we're most aware of it. But it has its own very limited, ultimately, even though it just realized about had a breakthrough about the mind connection to the body, it's still limited to mind and the body, but mind, right? It's not consciousness of the Pisces awareness, like the consciousness, the source, the God, whatever, right? But this pull for perfection is there already because has a mind, it's the most evolved, up until that point, human, but in touch with Pisces, that is everything, the truth. So he knows all that. So he knows there is perfection, but what it doesn't get yet is, that it's just the way it is. It's perfect, but it doesn't know that yet. So that's why. So I have, when a Virgo, and I'm Pluto in Virgo and Stellium in Virgo, so I have personal bias there as well, of great compassion for that archetype. Knowing how hard, it's impossible not to be perfect, whatever you have in Virgo. It's like, well, not to strive for it, rather, sorry. So give yourself a break. It's okay. But now you know why that is. Like you can like, by giving yourself a break, you're not beating yourself about it now. Beating up is a masochism piece, which I'll come to in a moment. But now you understand the pull. It's like you're never gonna be free from it. So stop trying to fight it. Like, I'll strive for perfectionism. But it's like when you make yourself ill, that's where you are. If that gives you pleasure, and that's actually a separate video. But anyway, even if that gives you pleasure, like even if that masochism or that kind of pushing gives you pleasure for perfectionism, then, and that pain, that illness, like feeling ill because you're such a perfectionist, like you burnout or whatever, then great. Because if it's something that actually satisfies you and fulfills you, even if on the surface it seems painful or wrong, then that's good for you. It's good for you and you're aware of it. There is another layer underneath that, so I'll touch on it a little bit, which is that even when we're not aware of the pain being actually a source of pleasure for us, so the stuff that we do in our life that apparently is just, God, why do I do this to myself? I'm always ill on the back of it. It always makes my life hell and blah, blah, blah. Part of you that you're not really so quickly and easily and consciously and logically even aware of or acceptive of is also enjoying that way of being. So however deep you dig, you will always find love. And that's the Pisces piece that says that it's perfect just the way it is. However messed up, however imperfect you are and your life is, it's actually, that's a perfection for you in that moment of your evolution. So now you can kind of just release just enjoy the ride of your perfectionism. Like, go for it. And you'll see, as you start to accept it, it will dissolve. And that, again, what Pisces does, that love, or like loving you just the way you are, will just help because you have accepted and you love it. Love your perfectionism. Love your striving for it, right? Criticism is another piece. So that's like, as I just said about Mercury, curious and discernment, and like it needs to, for it, because it now has this this microscopic view of reality and oneself. It's like so it sees everything, and so you can see what's working, what's not working. And so if any other sign, any other planet saw everything the way Virgo sees, would be equally critical. Meaning, it's like, that's what criticism is. It's like going, that's not good, that's not working, let's not do that, we're not going to do that because it's not working. Well, when we have such insight and such depth of insight of something, then it's just like an impulse. It's a natural impulse, let's call it, although natural is a wonky word. But anyway, to not, to just get rid of the stuff that doesn't work because it doesn't feel good, right? So the criticism is, we all will be critical if we saw as much as Virgo sees. And now also it's connected to the perfectionism because it's striving for the perfectionism. So criticism is there to drive that perfectionism. And I mean, just think also like how if you have Virgo, like not just friends against Sun, but like Virgo, what's the word, Venus, right, or Mercury, or even Mars. What else? Moon, even, right? The kind of very personal planets. You may find that these people are so good at advice, like really good at like giving you practical advice and actually helping you. So it's like, you see, it's also essential part to being helpful, which is why everyone loves about Virgo. Like everyone loves Virgo because everyone, Virgo is the most helpful. I mean, I have also personal experience a lot with Virgos. It's like, we love them for the helpfulness, but then we don't love them for criticism, and we don't love them for perfectionism. And it's like, well, and it's not even that we don't love them. We feel personally affronted, and yes, and they are literally telling us those things about how imperfect we are, or how critical, how something isn't working, and whatever. And obviously, the Libra piece, Virgo. So remember, again, Libra is the after Virgo. So Virgo doesn't have that social skill necessarily to be diplomatic about. So again, give it a break. So it's like if you are, whatever your Virgo area is bothering you in the way I'm talking about, just remember that you don't have the grace of Libra yet, because you don't. You just, it's just how it is, right? That's why astrology is phenomenal. Okay, and the masochism, which is really the kind of the same as a victim piece, similar enough. So again, it comes back to this perfectionism because of the Pisces piece. It knows what perfection is, well, from its vantage point, right? So it's not really, it doesn't know perfection like Pisces does because it's not Pisces. It's like none of us know perfection like Pisces does. Again, not a Sun Pisces, just a Pisces placement of yours. In that area of a chart, and where you have Pisces, and also where you have Neptune, and where you have and your 12th house potentially. But let's stick with, just for the simplicity of this conversation. So wherever you have Pisces, you will know perfection. But wherever you have Virgo, you will very clearly see it. You see it, right? You can see it, and it's perfect, but you're not in it. So you're looking from that kind of, like I said, limited in your own perspective, your own filters of like imperfection, being that it's just you're human, and that's Virgo, Earth, right? So the masochism piece is like knowing that it's there, and it feels like it's, I can walk, and you probably, in some kind of sense, you get to that point, and you realize you're not that. So this is the symbol. This is where I'm going to go abstract on you when it comes to bringing astrology into this conversation. So as a Virgo piece, you're kind of going towards your Pisces end of the axis, right? But you are still Virgo. So unless you're kind of consciously working with Pisces to bring into your Virgo, if you're going as your Virgo, because Virgo doesn't want to lose control, because it knows as well, chaos on the other end of Pisces, because that's the nebula. The nebula is literally like, it's a word you use for Pisces. One use this for Pisces as well. But nebulas are those explosions of stars in the universe, right? So it's chaos, basically. So Virgo also sees the chaos. So in addition to perfection, it sees chaos, and it's scared of that chaos. Pisces isn't, and I'll talk about escapism and all that in a moment with Pisces. But basically, sorry, I got distracted for a second. I was saying how as a Virgo, you're going towards Pisces, but because you're scared of letting go of your control as a body, as a matter for Earth, right? You are still in your Virgo, and as you come to Pisces, you're still separate as a Virgo. And as a Virgo, you have limited, as anyone, other than Pisces, you have that limitation of whatever that is, in this case Virgo, to see Pisces for what it is. So you see Pisces as something that is, like I say, perfect, but it's not you. So you, by default, immediately are not perfect, therefore, right? I mean, and that's, and this is, I mean, Pisces, I mean, I spoke of how it's hard to be Libra, or I will be speaking, meaning I have recorded these in batches, so it will be coming, I think, why it's actually so hard to be Libra. And part of it's because of Virgo, but I'm not going to touch on that because I'm talking in that video about it. But here I'm going to also say how it's hard to be all of the signs in many ways, in all the ways actually, like, yeah. But I love speaking of, like, when I never hear anyone speak of Libra in that way, so that's why I love that video. But so Pisces is something I speak all the time, and I think everyone else does. It's one of the, Neptune and Pisces are the hardest archetypes, and our 12th house are the hardest archetypes to manifest, to practically live, right? Because they're not practical. They have nothing to do with 3D. So of course they are most difficult. And so where was I going with this? Sorry, give me a sec. That the Virgo archetype has this awareness, has this view, direct view, most direct view to Pisces as this archetype that is just impossible to humanize. Okay, that actually no. Well, yes and no, but in a sense materialize. Let's do that because practicalize. It's impossible. It's impossible, and the only way it is possible is through poetry and art and spirituality. But that's not my thing. Mine is poetry and art, and that is okay. That can make sense to Virgo to a point, but not enough because Virgo is logic, and there's no logic in either poetry nor art. So you see what I mean? So this is what Virgo contends with on daily basis. It's that pull of the opposition that is just constant, like a reminder of what can be and what it's not. And so it beats itself up, but that's because it stays in Virgo. It stays in Virgo, and that's a masochism. Like, so I'm not as good as this thing, and I know it's possible because it's why am I constantly looking at it if it's not given to me? And it knows the whole manifesting piece about the mind, so I'm aware of it, I see it. Why am I not it? But you're not it because you're still in Virgo. And so this is what happens, and I spoke in other videos. If you go to it as you, as Virgo, you're not going to do well in Pisces. Like, you're not going to achieve what you're seeking. That's what I mean when I say, well, I'm not judging, I'm just qualifying. And then, but if you bring Pisces to you halfway, you need to meet halfway, that's the integration. You are, what they would suggest is that you leave your Virgo up until a certain point, and then you are in Pisces. You bring Pisces to you, so you feel Pisces. That's the only time, and forget about your Virgo. And that in simple plain terms means like you just drop all the matter, all the control, all the rules, all the stuff that doesn't work in Pisces, and you allow yourself to embody that way of being and to experience being like that. And that is when you start to find the peace that Virgo craves like nothing else. It's that bliss, maybe more than a peace actually. It's the bliss, the state of bliss, because it can it's like being teased, it's like being tortured, right? Okay, so that's the Virgo piece. Let me just talk a little bit about Pisces. So I said it's escapism, deception, and victim mentality. Escapism. So we are now in the opposite end of this story. So we are now in Pisces. And in Pisces we have, like, it's dark. This is just, you get to Pisces, just kind of want to just like love. Just be love, and that's all. Just be beauty and love. And oh my God, I'm all chills. When you enter an archetype, right? And it's the end, and it's beyond the end, because the end is really Aquarius and the 11th house and Uranus. End of us as we know ourselves, like as, end of this body. And I don't mean just death, although death too, potentially, but it's a next level way of it. That's a good one. So this is all the end of the 3D. We have formed ourselves in 3D, although, I mean, there is an argument for Uranus and Aquarius to be the 5D. Possibly, yes, like a high consciousness and like, okay, there is that. So, but it's well, I'm not there, so I can't really speak from, The point is, I just wanted to kind of make a distinction that the 12th house in Pisces doesn't have to mean death, although in a way it does, but it's not, and not the death in the material sense, although like I said, that too as well, but I wanted to speak of the not death, physical death, what happens while you're still aware of it. And that's what I mean. It's like, okay, maybe we can say that it is even a death, a real death, but in Pisces, in 12th house, in Neptune, with those three, variants of the similar, same-ish archetype of the overlap, of the archetype, we are outside of our body, but we are aware of the body. It's like we get to the point where the death that we might be experiencing, actual, literal, physical, or just metaphorical or symbolic, we are understanding it. We now know why all of this is the way it is. Hence the love and the ultimate, unconditional acceptance and compassion, and that everything's perfect. And that's the divinity, that's the God, that's the source, that's the whatever, right? Whatever you call it. So Pisces is that. And so it's the most blissful existence. Now, because none of us are just Pisces, so we all have Pisces, we all have Neptune, and we all have 12th house, but none of us, well, even if you had, I just realized you could have everything in your 12th house. I'm sure you could. Yeah, you could. I mean, yeah. And even in Pisces. So that, I don't think you would, for that to be the case, well, that is probably, sorry, I'm thinking out loud here now. Even if, let's say, you could, and maybe there is a point in time when even the big ones like Neptune, all of them will be together in Pisces in one day, like, and Pluto and Neptune and Uranus in Pisces one day. So I don't see that happening. Maybe we're talking millennia, maybe, I don't know. But let's say that happens and you have everything in Pisces. Maybe, well, that's a different human. Truly, I believe that would be a different human. But because that's not anyone's reality, really. We all are everything else in the chart, right? So that's just one aspect of us. So that's what I mean. We bring astrology down to earth, and it's like this Pisces piece of you is like in a blissful state of existence, and it just, the rest of the world, it's like, well, we've done all that. I don't care for it. I don't care for the day-to-day, the reality, the blah, 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 when this way of living is just this way of like existing. It's not even living in the kind of 3D sense as we know it. It's like too good to be true. I'm not interested. So escapism, he escapes. So that's why, and I have strong 12th house and I have North Node in Pisces. So again, I speak from experience, like watching TV and, but not just any TV, not news, just like, movies and then music and dance and ballet and art and all these escapists, and spirituality is possibly another one, because I say it's not my thing, in a kind of traditional sense or whatever. It's like, of course, because why would you? Why else? Why would you do anything else? So it's absolutely normal. But what we forget is that we are not just that, right? And also, like, and in a way, like when Pisces, so back to the Pisces and Virgo piece, it's like all that totality essentially, and the bliss of it, but it's a totality. Like I say, it's the truth is everything, all the signs together there, right? It's like now we know everything. So the totality, the truth, right? To squeeze that back into Virgo, I mean, it's like it's like being cruel. I mean, then you feel the cruelty and all that in the request of that. So of course they want to escape. So there's that. The deception is, and yes, again, I speak elsewhere about this, which is that I have been most of my youth, certainly, and still on the receiving end, a lot of Pisces energy and archetypes, like Moon in Pisces and Venus in Pisces in particular. And I always, like, that was my biggest issue with not escapism so much, but the deception. Like, I always felt that they were deceiving me, like those people in my life. And obviously they were just far more than those Pisces elements, but they're personal planets, and those two ones in relationships, like the Venus piece, and then the Moon is like something that we are just, like, it's our needs, and we are very defensive and protective, and we'll do anything to kind of meet those needs. So that's where the deception always comes in. Like, we will deceive with our Moon, just to keep safe, right? That's what I mean. And so this is all a Pisces deception. So I really felt the Pisces deception, and so it was my biggest problem. And it's like Neptune in the 7th anyway. My point there being is that deception is really our perception. It's like a Pisces trying to communicate logically, Virgo, to us, to that other person, like in my case, those people to me, right? Whatever the Pisces message is. And so it never translates in a clear, logical, clean, because Virgo is clean energy. And I spoke at the beginning of this why it's important to be bad, because so we keep the energetic hygiene, and that is the Virgo piece. Like the Virgo piece and Pisces piece are this acceptance of imperfection is perfection, right? It's like everything that makes us imperfect is what is, just from Virgo perspective, it's like, blah, awful. We want to judge, we want to shame, but then Pisces comes and it goes, no, it's all perfect the way it is. So that is the work of this axis. So even though I want to start every video with that in that way, I think it's ultimately Virgo Pisces piece. So deception really is because the Virgo doesn't understand Pisces. No one understands Pisces. That's the thing. No one understands Pisces. With a logical mind, you have to tap into other areas of your existence, your being rather. So it's like, your intuition, your feelings, your non-verbal, your pre-verbal, your paraverbal, and like that's why art and poetry. I mean, how many times you read poetry if you are that way inclined, and you don't. It's like you can just feel how it deceives you, doesn't it? Right? Poetry deceives you. Art deceives you in the sense that you're kind of, what is this? Oh, is it that? Is it? You feel like you don't really know where you stand with it. But only if you're trying to stay in the Virgo piece, logic, and to kind of to understand, like make it, have a clear bullet point list that explains what that poetry means or what the artwork means. Well, you are missing so much if that's your approach. And I mean, whenever I approach it like that, I miss so much as well. And so that's a deception piece, because once we feel we are deceived because we cannot get that clarity, we cannot be, we are not, we are not instructed in a good way, in a clear way, right? And so that's the deception piece and the victim mentality. Now, victim mentality is a form of escapism, really, because it's like, but it's also, victim mentality is, even though I certainly don't advocate it, and it's always about the hygiene, energetic hygiene, but there is wisdom in it. As with all of this is ultimately my point. There is wisdom, there is a reason, and there is a wisdom in that reason, and the medicine, if you like, in it as well. So when I speak of victim mentality, it's the sense of powerlessness, like you can't help yourself, you're helpless. And so as helpless, you are relying on others to help you, and you're asking for help. Now, just pause for a moment and think how many times you have heard nowadays on social media people actually speaking how it's okay to ask for help. This is the Virgo piece. It's all like, I'm going to do it, and Capricorn piece actually big time, and this is Pluto in Capricorn transit, in fact I think far more than Virgo, that has done to us collectively, that to kind of like, it's okay to ask for help. And Cancer is also helpful, and it's also there to nurture others, but the medicine, or the message, or the purpose of this victim mentality, or the sense of powerlessness that Pisces archetype has and practices or expresses itself in that way, is to say that it's okay to feel helpless, but it's also to evoke compassion in us. Now, of course, there are abuses to all of this I've been saying, but I don't want to go into that because I just don't want to. It's almost like it's like what you focus on, right? So if you focus on what's wrong and treating it as something is wrong with it, energetically you are perpetuating and you're compounding the energy of wrongness. You might write it, but you're writing the wrongness. And so it's still wrongness that you are concerned about, and you're talking about, and you're spreading that vibe. And I don't mean like it's a negative vibe or a bad vibe. I just think that approach is just not, it's not effective enough in a way. If we want to spread love, the capital L, and I laugh because I'm so not someone who is love and light kind of person, because I think we have to do the dirty work first, and I know I still haven't finished doing my own dirty work yet, and of course it's not just like 50 years of that and then the rest of life is light. No, it's always every day you do both, but still there's far more dirt than cleanliness or whatever, but so you can still do the dirty work, you can still improve, you can still right the wrongs by focusing on treating the wrongs as in their own right, as being right and correct for that stage of your journey. So there is a qualitative reason, if in my view, in the way I see this, why I don't speak of the abuses of these qualities that I listed, because they can be, but it's by looking at them from the place of how they're actually, what's good about them, trying to understand them. Essentially, you're writing them, you're improving them, because I said at one point earlier, like it dissolves the acceptance and the love and your understanding. Actually, dissolves and weakens the hold of the kind of the toxicity that it comes with these traits that are listed. It kind of purifies it, or it dissolves it, right? Purifies Virgo, dissolves Libra, Pisces. So the victim mentality piece is the piece of like, it's the victim to reality. It's like, because if we say that Pisces is no rules, no control, that it's, let's say, just those two things, and that's the blissful state. That's what. So the moment you try to impose rules and control and structure, blah blah blah, all kind of Virgo pieces, but also 3D life, everything else in the chart, you are removing. It's like you are extinguishing the species of Pisces, right? So like if you think of the extinguished species in nature, I don't know, whatever, I can't think of any, but like I don't know, like birds and fish and plants that are extinct, or they're really like going down that route. That's the victim. They're victims. That they're literally endangered, and that in that sense, victim is just the right word. It's the healthy expression. It's, of course, they're a victim. So you see what I mean? When Pisces is not allowed to be Pisces, and in a way Pisces cannot be Pisces in the world as it is. But then Pisces is never just Pisces. You have other parts in your chart, so you have to work that. So you can hire me. In my about section, there is a form for new clients. So head that way if you want to work with me to help you, do the rest of your chart and not just live in your Pisces. Because, if you're just in Pisces, you are like in a tower. A tower is actually in a tower of clouds. You're like so removed. You're not really incarnated. You're not with the rest of the world. And there is melancholy in that, because you're aware of it. If you were just unaware of it in Pisces, in the blissful state, you wouldn't have incarnated. But you are, so you're aware of the rest of and that's Virgo piece as well, but also the rest of your chart. But because, that Pisces piece of you doesn't want to do the rest of the chart, you're kind of feeling alone and melancholy there. And that, again, that's correct for that archetype, but it can be mitigated if you wish to. But ultimately, I was just going to wrap up with this victim piece. So when Pisces is not able to be Pisces, which is every time you try to do Pisces in 3D world, the way the 3D world works, part of Pisces will have to die. So of course they're a victim, right? Okay, that's it. It's a long one, but I think it's a good one, I feel. So hopefully let me know, and if you'd like me to talk about every single axis like this, which like I said, probably will, but it will be in October, I think, time, not earlier, because I already planned for this the way I have. So thank you if you stayed this far with me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I'm so glad you're here. And yeah, like always, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to talk more about something else and all this stuff, and what you thought of this, and how you resonate with it. And yeah, I'll see you next week.